Hello and welcome to another edition of Talkin' Tunes. I am your host, Frank Walsh, along with two very special guests. Now you might remember on last week's show we were doing a preview of the Meet the Legends concert right here in Stoughton. Well, a week has passed, that concert has completed, and we are here today to give you a recap and show you some highlights of that concert. And I can assure you folks, you are not going to want to miss this one, nor will you want to miss future shows that is going to show a lot more video of that concert. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my two guests here. Michael Wigdor, who you may know from the Sports Rap show here on Smack. And Michael, welcome today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Michael is here because he was one of the fortunate ones who got to watch that entire show, and he got to do some film, which you will see at a later date. Yeah. But to my left, I have, once again, Rabbi Hausman, Stoughton's own, who was the man responsible for putting on this concert. And I have to tell you, Rabbi, first, welcome. And I have to tell you, it exceeded my expectations, and I would imagine that everybody who was there, their expectations were exceeded as well. So why don't you share that experience with us as best you can?
Well, first, I don't know if I'm the man of the hour. I mean, I had a lot of help in the synagogue,
okay,
as well as in the musical community to put this together. So it was really a team effort.
Well, you were the spearhead, put it that way.
Yeah.
Tell us about that night.
You know, what can you say about five legendary musicians who, gave of their hearts and their souls to share with this community down here, raise some money for a great cause over in Israel, Aline Hospital, whose mission it is to heal broken bodies. It's Israel's only hospital that focuses solely on pediatric and adolescent orthopedic rehabilitation. Okay. And, the funny thing is, just a couple of days before the show itself, the festival itself, those of us who are board members for the American wing, and I'm on the executive committee, I'm the first vice president, we just got the hospital's budget for this year, and we have to plug through the North American efforts a $1.5 million funding deficit. Now, it may not seem like a lot of money when you talk about the scope of Mass General Hospital or Brigham and Women's or the BI, but over in Israel, you need to understand, a hospital in Israel can run on $8 to $10 million for the year. Wow. So if you talk about, a $1.5 million funding gap, it's a lot of money we have to raise. And, this was literally the Blues Festival at the synagogue was the first effort this year by our North American office to begin to raise money to plug that gap. And with Vinny Serino and Boston Baked Blues, Ricky King Russell, who I think is one of the most overlooked and underrated guitarists in the country.
Agreed.
Yeah. Jerry Portnoy, just arguably the most formative harp player in the world.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Incredible. Danny Klein, James Montgomery, and the backing musicians. We just had 5.5 hours of just pure delight.
It was, absolutely.
I can tell you from, having the pleasure of filming it, talking with you, talking with the performers, and, Mike and I, roaming around in the crowd, it was just electric in there, and there was not a person with whom I spoke who had nothing but praise for the organization of the event, the performers themselves, how kind and gentle and amenable they were to everybody, plus the music itself.
They opened, I can't speak about the gentlemanliness of the musicians that came. I mean the headliners, and I mean the backing musicians. They made themselves available not just to the synagogue and Aline Hospital, and not just to the Stoughton Media Access crew that came in, but they had absolutely no issue just roaming around the halls, roaming around the hall itself, and just stopping and talking, asking people if they were enjoying themselves, what tunes would you like to hear. I mean, listen, they came in with their set lists, but it's very interesting. James Montgomery, he had forwarded a set list, and before he went on, he just was standing in the green room, before he went on, discussing, listen, I don't want to do that set list. I want to, let's do this, let's do that. Here's the kind of beat I want for this. This is what I'm looking for.
Right.
And he puts together a completely new set list. It really speaks to the musicianship of the backing musicians, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, just from the professionalism from beginning to end of the musicians. And with regard to the synagogue itself, this is not our first rodeo when it comes to something like this. We have learned by experiences. Believe me, we have taken our hits on this. But this particular night, it just all came together.
It was magnificent. I mean, I mean, people that go there is like, you know, you're coming from weather that's been really crappy and really cold and everything. And I could see that the people, because I was in the back filming it, I could see that everyone was like really excited to be there. And like they were up and standing and dancing while they were playing.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a happening. A Woodstock 1969 is a happening.
Right.
But this was a unique event.
It was.
It really was.
And like you said about the musicians, I mean, I was really taken by the fact that they were so welcoming and so like normal people almost. You know, they weren't like they were the greatest in the world probably at their profession, at the harp, playing the harp, but they were also very down to earth, and that's what struck me about it as much as anything. And they really played their hearts out. I mean, they gave everything they could. From what I could see, they gave everything they could have.
I mean,
Well, I think that,
yes.
you know, rather than talk about it, I think that our esteemed director, Roxanne Morse, and by the way, much of the film that you were going to see today was from the camera that Roxanne was shooting, and we'll have Roxanne pop in at the end of the show. So, Roxanne, if you're ready, I think it's time to give a little bit of taste of what the folks at home missed last Saturday night. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, you just had the pleasure of listening to Mr. Vinny Sereno and the Boston Baked Blues. And we are in a position now where I believe that we can we can talk with Vinny. Is that right, Rabbi?
Yeah, I have Vinny on the line. Vinny, you there?
Yes, I am, sir.
Well, Vinny, we just had the pleasure of playing your video of Whammer Jammer, and I tell
my
you,
God, how'd that come out?
you know, you look like a strapping young buck there in their 20s who was performing there. You were like a kid, man. Unbelievable, Vinny.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Well, we were talking about how great the show was the other night. Why don't you give a little bit of perspective from a performer's state of view?
Well, from a performer's state of point of view, it was a spectacular show. One of the reasons was, the lineup was really good, and it really came together. All the different players, Rick Russ, Ricky Ting Russell, Danny Klein, James Montgomery, Jerry Portnoy, and the Boston Baked Blues Band, who I have to, with the Temple Horns, I had to give a special kudos to because they learned all the tunes for all the other guys. They backed them all up, and they did a great job of changing gears from set to set, playing different styles of music. And as we talked about, Ricky King and I talked about, and Rabbi, you had every kind of blues you could possibly imagine all on one stage in one night. It was just spectacular from that point of view.
Texas, New Orleans, Piedmont, Chicago. It's just unbelievable.
Yep. And from the performer's point of view, it was just a great night of camaraderie and total love with the audience. The audience was spectacular. They were so appreciative of it. That's what we live for. A full house and an appreciative audience. Everyone was getting standing ovations. I mean, that's why we play music. And number one, that's number one. And number two is Rabbi J treats us like kings. He just takes such good care of the musicians. He treats us with so much respect. We would do pretty much anything for him.
And they know that the feeling is mutual. And this is not the first time that a number of these performers have played the synagogue. And every time they come in, we guarantee to put as many people in as possible. Last time Danny Klein came in, he came in with his band, Danny Klein's Full House. Vinny, Serino, and Boston Baked Blues opened for them. We set up for 200 people. We had 225 people come out.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, they're appreciative of the effort. We can't guarantee that we'll have a full house every time, but they're always appreciative of the effort that the synagogue puts forward to make them feel warm, to make them feel comfortable, and so that they know we just appreciate and love them.
Yep.
And that is pretty evident.
Worthy cause to boot.
Yeah, well, it's funny. A number of us were talking after the event, back in the green room and in my office, as well as by email about taking the show on the road.
Yeah.
So, and a number of them have said, listen, we're there. We're there, we're with you. So now the question becomes, okay, we can take it to New York, possibly, but can we do something with this lineup over in Israel?
Wow, that'd be amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, so, we're just kicking the ideas around.
Well, Vinny, for the sake of time, I'm sure that we could go on and talk about this forever, but I want to take... just take a second again to thank you for putting on such a fantastic show, and thank you for sharing it with the folks here at SMAC and the people in Stoughton, and I'm sure several other cable companies that will be picking this up. And just to quote you from last week, all harmonica players don't die, they just blow away. Vinny, you're going to be blowing away for a long time, my friend.
That's for sure.
I have a lot of energy. I just had my physical, and my doctor told me I had the blood pressure of a teenager. So, and when I get on stage, I have the passion of one as well. You get a lot more wisdom these days, but I still have that energy and passion for what I do, and especially for a worthy cause like doing that fundraiser for Allen Hospital in Israel. I mean, you give me an audience, the bigger the audience, the better we'll do.
Well, Vinny, we'll make sure that we'll try to get as many people as we can in front of you. And once again, thanks for coming on today. Appreciate it.
And I'd like to thank you guys from SMAC TV, too, for putting in such a great effort video on that whole show. I mean, you guys did a tremendous job, and you worked real hard at it. And hats off to you over there at your station as well. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, the best is yet to come. We have 15 hours plus of raw footage that we're going to be sorting through. So you're going to be in for a treat when you get to see it.
Can't wait. Thank you so much. much, guys.
Take
Okay.
care, Vinny.
Bye, Vinny.
All right, take care.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Don't you just hate these standoffs, snobbish
I
big
know,
shots?
really.
You know?
They think they're so full of themselves,
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, that was pretty evident right there.
Yeah, I
how
know.
these guys just treat the little people.
Yeah.
But is there anybody nicer than Vinny?
No.
As far as how they treat people and how they deal with their audience and the passion that
We
they have for the
we
music.
had 12 musicians come in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Between the headliners and the backing musicians, as I've said, are no slouches themselves. And
That's true.
they are just, they love what they do. They love the cause. They heavily promoted the cause for Aline Hospital, you know, and I have some good friends. What can I say?
Well,
Yeah.
I have some
they
very good
certainly
friends.
love you,
Yeah.
and I think that it's time to see some of your friends in action. So, Roxanne, if you have the next little tease, say when.
Pianist, the great Errol Garner, and you all know this tune is his most famous.
Look at me, I'm as helpless as a kitten up a tree. And I feel like I'm clinging to a cloud. I can't understand, I get misty just holding your hand. Walk my way, and 1,000 violins begin to play. Or is it just the sound of your hello, of that music I hear? I get misty just knowing you're near.
Here comes the big finish. Misty.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, for you doubters out there, I have to tell you, if you had any doubt about there not being a heaven, you just experienced about 4 minutes of heaven on earth. And that was the great Jerry Portnoy on harmonica and the great Ricky King Russell on guitar. And it doesn't get any better than that, Rabbi.
Definitely not.
And Mikey, it doesn't get any better than that. And Mikey, I want to ask you, you were one of the key contributors to this filming of the show, and you had that center view, and you had that nice up close and personal. What were you trying to capture, and what was your takeaway from your experience?
I'll tell you, from the time that Vinny started to play, and the way he was connecting with the audience, and then each performer afterwards, I just wanted to get their passion. I mean, it was so clear to me, and it was going right through me. I could feel the music going through me, and I'm thinking to myself, anybody here is actually losing their winter blues tonight by being here. So it was a great thing that the rabbi did, even for the, for the great contribution to the hospital in Israel, but for people just in the area to have that kind of experience, to be able to go there. And that's what I wanted to capture. I wanted to capture how it was with the audience and how it was with the, the performers and how much they put into it. And even at some point, I try to show them, dancing around the aisles in the back there. But it was so clear to me how much fun it was that everybody shared in it.
Just to add to that, listen, the event was set for January 17th, which meant that promotion and whatnot began about 5 to 6 weeks previously. So you have Christmas, you have New Year's, and while we were certain that we would have a crowd, you just are unsure how large the numbers would be. That's because you can have whatever you want out there in terms of promotions, but it gets lost in the sauce of the holiday season.
Yeah.
Right.
A week and a half before the event, we had approximately 50 tickets sold, 51 actually, to be exact. And then, beginning with the weekend before the event, tickets are just flying off the shelves. It's about 300 tickets were sold for this thing. And once we pre-sold about 200, actually we had a meeting, we had pre-sold 202, and then the question was, well, we've set this up to have, we set up the venue to have a dance floor. We better get rid of the dance floor because we just didn't want to turn anybody away.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, folks, as expected, time is our enemy today, and it wouldn't be fair for us not to share with you one or two of the other performers. So without further ado, Roxanne, if you have one more clip that you could show. Wow, and for those of you who didn't know who that was, that man needs no introduction. That is the great James Montgomery. But before we move on, I think it would be fair for us to talk a little bit about the great sidemen, the great backup men, and the great complimentary musicians who were there at that show. And Rabbi, why don't you take it from there? You know these guys, so.
Yeah. In terms of the Boston Baked Blues bands, backing Vinny was Skip Fisher, one of the great drummers around. Skip played with and toured with Chuck Berry, with Bo Diddley, and a host of others.
Wow.
So yeah. Dave Levine, who played guitar, he's, as you're looking at the stage, he was on the guitarist on the left. One of the great session men out of Los Angeles who moved back home. He grew up here in Canton. On the other side, there's Greg Miller, who was one of the finalists for the King of the Blues guitar competition back in 2006. And all I can say is, I can't tell the difference between him and the winner. Okay, Bobby Abruzzi on bass. The bassist, he is just one of the finest bassists I've ever heard. The horn section, we call them the Temple Horns, but there's John Vanderpool and John Ferry. We're talking two guys who formerly played with the Heavy Metal Horns.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and the trumpeter is Dan Rabinowitz. He's an attorney in town during the day at this point in his life, but you should know in a previous life, great horn man. He toured with none other than the King of Soul himself, Solomon Burke.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, so like I said, we call the horn section the Temple Horns, but these guys are they were just a ripping horn section.
Oh, they were great.
And of course on keyboard, Danny Klein, Full House's keyboardist, Dave Quintiliani was just a marvelous musician in his own right. So.
And he carried some vocals the other night.
He did.
Yeah.
He did as well. Yes, on the Giles numbers that were covered.
Wow. Well, thank you for introducing the performers. And folks, time is winding down, and unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do something that I had anticipated that we were going to do, and that is have Roxanne Morse make an appearance and come out here and take a bow, because she has put a tremendous amount of work into this show today, and she is almost singularly responsible for these videos and making it look as nice as she did. And she had a handheld camera, so our kudos, our hats off to Roxanne for doing such a fantastic show today. And
Great job,
as I said,
Great job by Roxanne.
three guys talking music. We could do it all day, and I think
Yeah.
the only disadvantage of this show is that it's not an hour or 2 hours.
I know.
But folks, with the remaining 10 that we do have, I do want to thank the Rabbi Jay for being on here, and Michael for coming on here.
Yeah, my
and I
pleasure.
want to cue you in at home that this is just going to be the tip of the iceberg. We have hours and hours of tape that we are going to sort through, and you are going to be seeing some of the best performers in the world right here on Smack TV. And we hope that we can get this out to other cables as well. So, without further ado, I want to thank Roxanne Morse, who directed, Michael Hammond, who helped in the background assistance, Jeff Pickett, Michael, Rabbi Jay. Tune in and tune on.